You're moving, maybe upsizing, maybe relocating, maybe just ready for a change, and someone in your life has told you, don't sell, just rent it out. Free money every month, build wealth. Sounds perfect, right? But if you actually ran the numbers, because in New York City, the math doesn't always work the way people think. And today I'm going to show you exactly how to figure out which option puts more money in your pocket. Because at the end of the day, it's all that matters, right? That's the reason we get up out of bed in the morning. Got to get the money flowing. It's got to come in one way or another. So let's figure out the best way for you. I'm Joseph Ranola with the Bridge and Boro Team at Real Broker. I work with homeowners across Staten Island and Brooklyn. This question comes up in probably half of my listing consultations. Someone's ready to sell and then a friend or family member says, hold on. Keep that property. Why not just rent it out and collect income? Reasonable question. Sometimes renting is the better financial move, but sometimes, and I'd say more often than people expect, selling and redeploying that equity produces a better return with way less stress. I've helped homeowners on both sides of this decision, sellers who took their equity and bought investment properties that actually cash flowed, and homeowners who decided to rent out their place and came back to me 2 years later saying, get me out of this, it's not worth it. The key is running the actual numbers for your situation, not your neighbor's situation, your cousin, your uncle's father's brother-in-law, not what someone on TikTok said, but your numbers, and let me show you how. I built a free sell versus rent calculator that lets you plug in your home value, mortgage balance, estimated rent, and expenses. It shows you the projected return for each scenario over 5 and 10 years. Link is in the description and the pinned comment. A lot of value to that. I mean, 1, 2, 3, you could plug everything in and you'll kind of get an overall gist of where you would end up with both scenarios. Free. So let's start with what selling looks like financially. I'll use a real example. You own a single family home on Staten Island, currently worth $750,000, right about the median. You owe $300,000 on the mortgage. After commission, transfer taxes, attorney fees, closing costs, let's say that you'll net approximately $370,000 in cash. Now, what do you do with that $370,000? Okay, if you invest it in a diversified portfolio earning an average of 7% annually, which is a conservative estimate for long-term stock market returns, after 10 years, that money grows to approximately $727,000. That's $357,000 in investment gains. No tenants, no maintenance calls, no midnight plumbing emergencies, just compound. And you get that money working for you immediately. Day one after closing, it's sitting there and growing, which, by the way, I'm not a financial advisor, of course. Don't sell your house and throw all your money in some IPO, some crazy new stock, and then you lose it all and you come and sue me. I'm not telling you to do this. I'm just giving you scenarios. Now, let's look at what renting out that same property looks like. Market rent for a 3-bedroom single family on Staten Island is roughly $3,200 a month. Sounds great. That's $38,400 per year in gross rent. But here's where reality sets in. Let's subtract the actual costs. Your mortgage payment, including principal, interest, taxes, and insurance, is approximately $2,700 a month or $32,400 per year. Property management, if you hire someone, is typically 8 to 10% of rent, so about $3,800 per year. Maintenance and repairs, the industry standard reserve is 1% of property value annually, which is about $7,500. Vacancy, even in a strong New York City rental market, expect 4 to 6 weeks of vacancy per year between tenants, turnover costs, cleaning, minor repairs, budget about $2,500. Landlord insurance increase over your homeowner policy runs about $500 to $1,000 per year. Add that all up, your total annual expenses are approximately $46,700. Your gross rent is $38,400. You're actually negative $8,300 per year you're paying out of pocket to be a landlord. Now, to be fair, part of your mortgage payment is principal, which is building you equity, and the property will likely appreciate. So you're building wealth on paper, but month to month, you are cash flow negative, and that surprises a lot of people. And the spreadsheet also never tells the whole story. Let me walk you through the costs that don't show up on a calculator. Time. Being a landlord is not really passive, right? Even with a property manager, you're making decisions, you're approving repairs, you're dealing with tenant requests, you're reviewing leases. If you self-manage, multiply this by 10, 20, 100. Every clogged drain, every broken appliance, every noise complaint is your problem. Tenant risk. New York City has some of the most tenant-friendly laws in the country. If a tenant stops paying rent, the eviction process can take a year, 18 months, 2 years, multiple years. During that time, you're now covering the full mortgage with no rental income. One bad tenant can wipe out years of profit. Capital expenditures. Beyond routine maintenance, big ticket items come up, right? It's on a cycle. Roof replacement after a certain amount of time, boiler, water heater, siding, windows. These could be $10,000, $20,000, $30,000 expenses that hit every 10 to 20 years. If one hits while you're a landlord, it erases years of modest gains. Tax complexity. Rental income is taxable. You can deduct expenses and depreciation, but your tax return gets significantly more complicated. You'll likely need a CPA who specializes in rental properties, which is another cost. And then there's the stress factor. Having tenants in your home, someone else living in the place that you raised your family or renovated exactly to your taste, it can take a psychological toll that no spreadsheet really captures. And now this is the one that a lot of people miss, and it can cost you tens of thousands of dollars. When you sell your primary residence, you get a capital gains tax exclusion, $250,000 for single filers, $500,000 for married couples. But to qualify, you must have lived in the home as your primary residence for at least 2 out of the last 5 years. The moment you move out and start renting that property, that 5-year clock starts ticking. If you rent it out for 3 years and then decide to sell, you've used up 3 of your 5 years. You still qualify because you lived there for the prior 2, but if you rent it for 4 years, you no longer meet that 2 out of 5 requirement. Now your entire gain is taxable. On a property that's appreciated $200,000, that can mean another $30,000 to $50,000 in additional taxes. That is a massive hit that could have been avoided by selling 1 year sooner, 2 years sooner, whatever it works out to be for your situation. Timing matters. If you're going to rent first and sell later, have a clear timeline and do not let it slip past 3 years. If you own a co-op, and about half the apartments in New York City are co-ops, there's another factor. Most co-op boards restrict letting. Some limit you to 1 or 2 years total during your ownership. Some require you to live in the unit for a minimum of 2 years, 5 years, whatever, before you're allowed to sublet at all. And some boards simply just don't allow it, period. Even when it is permitted, the board can reject your proposed tenant. And many boards charge a subletting fee, often a percentage of the rent, which is now further cutting into your cash flow. Condos are generally more flexible, right? And that's just all around, to buy, to sell, to do everything. Most condo bylaws do allow rentals, though some newer buildings have minimum ownership periods before you can rent. And there may be a cap on the percentage of units that can be rented at any given time. If you own a house, none of these restrictions apply. You can rent it freely. There's no one breathing down your back telling you what you can or can't do. It's your house, free and clear, done deal. But for co-op owners, this isn't just a financial decision. It might just not even be an option for you. Now let me put the two scenarios side by side over 10 years. Scenario A, sell. Net $370,000, invest at 7% or buy another property or whatever you do with it. If you do invest it, maybe you end up with $727,000 after 10 years, right? Zero headaches, full liquidity. Scenario B, rent. Cash flow negative, $8,000 per year for the first few years. And again, that's on this specific example. You might not cash flow negative, but this is just off of this example, so I'm not doing an hour-long video. Property appreciates maybe 3% annually, going from $750,000 to about $1 million, right? Mortgage paid down on an additional $60,000 through tenant payments. Total equity position after 10 years, roughly $760,000 minus accumulated negative cash flow, capital expenditures. The numbers are surprisingly close, but the selling scenario comes with almost zero risk and zero time commitment. The rental scenario comes with tenant risk, maintenance liability, tax complexity, years of active management. For most homeowners in this market, selling and investing the proceeds produces a comparable or better return with dramatically less risk. Renting wins when you have a high cash flow property with rent significantly above your costs, you're in a rapidly appreciating neighborhood, you already have a property management system in place, or your tax situation specifically benefits from depreciation. Selling wins when your equity is high relative to cash flow. You don't want the management responsibility, your capital gains exclusion is at risk, or you would use the proceeds to buy a better performing asset. As usual, every single situation is different. The numbers I use today are illustrative, and your specific property, mortgage, market conditions will produce different results. That's why I built that free calculator that I mentioned. The link is in the description, the pinned comment below. Run your own numbers. And if you want me to sit down with you and run a detailed analysis for your specific property, comparing what you net with selling versus what you'd earn with renting, book a free consultation. The link is also below. I'm Joseph with the Bridge and Boro Team. Subscribe for more real estate content that helps make smarter financial decisions.